Hey gang, Coach Phil Houston here from CoachPhilHouston.com and the 4 Pillar Fitness Podcast. And I'm coming to you live on video today. It's a Monday, and I just want to talk to you about something that I'm going to give you some background on this, but talk about something that got to me a little bit this morning when I was out for my morning walk. I started to think about fear and anxiety and insecurity because I wanted to start producing more video content, and I just don't see myself as a video-friendly person. I'm not that average pretty trainer. It's one of my taglines. Most of the value that I bring for my clients really comes from my intuition, my knowledge, my experience. I'm not that physically young and pretty trainer that I use that word kind of loosely, pretty. I'm not super attractive, and I always feel very insecure on video because I feel like I'm not that good looking on video, but I'm going to do it anyway. I want to do more video content. I think it's powerful for people, and some people learn better on video. So this has to happen for me, and I have to get past my insecurities. So I started thinking while I was walking, why do we have so many fears and anxieties and insecurities about day-to-day things and about the things we want to get accomplished, when in reality, we probably have all the tools that we need at it, either within us, around us, or at our disposal. And I started thinking about it, and I thought, you know what? I grew up Catholic, and if you grow up Catholic or you grew up Jewish, there was a concept called original sin. So you were born with sin on your soul. So you were already imperfect when you were born. And I never really bought into that idea because I felt like it built our cycle of fear and anxiety for ourselves and insecurities because we come from God, or come from the womb, if you will, with an imperfect soul. And I always wondered, how can that be if a loving God created us, or if we're part of the universal flow, if you happen to be an atheist, if we're part of the universal flow, which is, really perfect in its design. So I never really bought that. And I grew up and I went to Catholic school for 12 years. So you can imagine that having that position and asking those kind of questions probably got me in some trouble with priests and nuns, and it did. In fact, it's a pretty funny story about my confirmation, which I'll get to in a minute. But the reality of it is I don't buy that concept that we have a sin on our soul when we're born. The idea that Adam and Eve committed a sin and that we have to suffer for it, we have to take it with us, to me, just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. But I understand, Catholicism, how it comes about, and the fact that it's part of Catholic tradition and Christian tradition. But I still just don't buy it because I feel like it creates an insecurity. It creates a lack mentality when there shouldn't be one. Okay, if there's something important in your soul and your heart, it's there for a reason. Okay, there's a big time reason why it's there, and I want you to remember it. Really quick aside. So I'm in 6th grade. And it's confirmation time. And at confirmation in Catholic schools and Catholic churches at that time, confirmants, as we were called, had to memorize 119 questions and answers about everything from the Bible to sacraments to really some pretty deep philosophy. So we get to church, and it's the day of confirmation. I've memorized all my stuff. I was a good student. I got it all done. And Bishop George R., I'll never forget this. He was the bishop of our archdiocese. Picks on me for the one question about original sin. And needless to say, when he walked over to me, you could hear every nun in church gasp. And he walked over to me and he asked me the question that was on our sheets that we had to memorize, and I gave him the stock answer. And he looked at me and he said, well, what do you really think about original sin? And I looked at him and I said, Bishop, I can't understand how a loving God who is perfect in every way would allow us to be born with a stain on our soul. I can't see that. I can't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. He loves us. He wants us to have a great life. He wants us to do well, but he sends us here with a sin in our soul that we're supposed to feel bad about, and we have to be baptized in order to remove. And he looked at me and he said, and by the way, you could have heard a pin drop in church because the priests and nuns were all just waiting for, sparks to fly, I guess. But he looked at me and he said, that's a very thoughtful position, very thoughtful idea. Kind of goes against what we believe, but it's a very thoughtful idea. And he moved on. And it was an interesting exchange because he didn't tell me I was wrong. He just said it's a very interesting thought. And I think it's important for us to understand that our insecurities and our fears and anxieties come from something that we believe we don't have, okay, or a belief that there's something wrong with us, right? So if you think that you don't have the resources around you to accomplish what's in your heart or what you really find important, or you think you don't have the connections, or you don't think you have the strength or the patience or the knowledge or the intuition or the experience, that's going to hold you back, okay? That's a stain on you, if you will, almost like original sin that you need to shed. You need to get rid of that, because the fact of the matter is you have everything you need to chase what's in your heart. And even with that, there's no guarantee that you're going to get it. But if you don't go after it, I know the one thing you're definitely going to get is regret. At some point in your life, you're going to look back and say, man, I wish I'd gone after that wholeheartedly. I wish I had chased that thing. For me, 4-pillar fitness is that thing. I believe that there really is more to fitness than sets, reps, and meal prep. It's one of my taglines. I believe that we as fitness coaches can impact people in the emotional and spiritual and intellectual pillars of fitness as well as the physical. And that, in fact, if we don't, we're probably creating gaps or leaving gaps there that will negatively affect our clients in the physical pillar. So coaches, listen up. This is important stuff. You don't have to be a mental health professional. And in fact, if someone has a deep, profound anxiety or depression, they probably should be referred out to a resource that can really help them. But as a coach, on a day-to-day basis, you need to recognize these things. This is my entire talk at the Elite Fitness and Performance Summit in September. So if you want to hear more about this and you want to dig in deep and spend a couple days talking about it, get there. Okay, the link's on my website, coachphilhouston.com. You can click and you can get yourself set up and get out there. We're going to talk about this at length. I'm building a course on this for FitFix now. I think it's really, really important. There's a science behind this. There's things that happen in your brain and your body when you don't believe in yourself. When you feel anxious, when you have fear, when you have insecurities, you set yourself up, not just right now, but long-term for more failure. There's a chance that you'll fail at whatever you chase. There's a chance that it won't work out for you. Okay, but failure is not fatal. I tell my athletes, if you're either winning or you're learning. If you're losing, you're probably learning more about what you need to do than if you won the game. It's okay to fall down. You got to get up. It's okay to feel afraid. You got to do it anyway. That's what courage is. And I'm not just trying to rah-rah you here. I want you to understand there's a deep-seated cause, a deep-seated root to your fears and your anxieties and your insecurities, even when you logic away everything else. Somewhere in your life, you were told you weren't enough. And you got to figure that out. For those of us who are Christian and Jewish, that starts at birth, man. That's crazy. As a funny aside, Islam believes that Adam and Eve sinned, but were forgiven by God because they asked for forgiveness. That's crazy. They believe that, but we don't. So the reality here is, whether you're Christian, Jewish, atheist, Hindu, whatever, your traditions are reinforcing some of the problems that you're having with fear and anxiety and insecurities. And I'm not blaming the church. Please understand that. I'm not saying that. The church is doing what they think they need to do. Okay, your parents, all the people who taught you, they're doing what they think they need to do, what's best for you, most of them. And yes, there's cases of abuse. I'm talking about normal people, normal situations, okay? You are enough. You have what it takes. You can do this. If it's important, if it wakes you up and it sends you to bed at night and it's the thing you think about when you're exhausted after your workouts, then it's the thing that you should be chasing, even as a side hustle. Go after it a little bit. Go after it progressively, step by step. Take it step by step, but keep moving in that direction. Because the minute you stop, regret's going to creep in. And that's just going to create more problems for you. You're better off to try and fail and try and fail and try and fail and keep going than to not try at all. Most business people, I can't tell you the number of businesses I failed at. And for whatever reason, it doesn't matter why. Okay, it doesn't matter why, but I get up and I keep going because I have successes as well. Because it's just how we're wired. We're wired to keep going, right? But we're also wired for fear and anxiety and insecurity. But we can overcome that. We can beat that with effort. Choose action over fear. Choose action over worry. Choose moving in the direction of what's important to you over sitting in fear and anxiety and insecurity. Your insecurities are there to trip you up. Just step over them. Your fears are there to block you. Push through them. Anxiety can be changed into energy that gets you focused on what you want. But you got to work at it. You got to try. Go do the thing that's important to you. Don't let your quote-unquote original sin of fear, anxiety, and insecurity hold you back. Don't let that be the reason that you don't give the world your best. Just give the world your best. The rest will take care of itself. This is Coach Phil Houston for the 4-Pillar Fitness Podcast, and now for my video blog. If you enjoyed this and you're listening to me on iTunes, would you drop me a 5-star rating so that other folks will know this has value? And please take a step in the direction of what's important to you today, and don't stop. This is Coach Phil Houston for the 4 Pillar Fitness Podcast, and I am out.